Hi Vince, thank you for visiting Korea. I am currently running the biggest prop community in South Korea. I also have prop trading YouTube channel. Could you please introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Vince Kane. I'm the Business Development Manager for Apex Trader Funding, and we're here in Korea and we had an event yesterday that you were part of, Grinding Life community was part of, so we're thankful for the invite and glad that we could be here today.
Could you please explain the basic concept of prop trading and how it is different from the conventional trading?
So there's two ways you can enter the futures space. You can either fund your own live brokerage account, which means you're going to be putting $5,000 to $10,000 in a brokerage account and trading that. That means you're risking your own capital. That means you are potentially risking your kid's college fund, your mortgage payment. Prop trading brings that capital to you via a small monthly fee. So for as little as $20 or $30, you can get a $50K account. You can trade 10 contracts on the market, which is leverage that you probably wouldn't have if you were trading your own live brokerage. So you're risking our money, not yours, for a very small monthly fee.
So how does the payout system work?
So the payout system, you initially start with an evaluation account. So the evaluation account has a profit target. You can pass that evaluation in as little as 1 day. As soon as you hit the profit target and you have not broke any rules, evaluation, you pay a PA fee, which we run a lot of specials on the PA fees. So from anywhere from $80 to $125, if it's depending on the promotion, you pay the PA, you then transfer to a PA account. That PA account is live money to you. So as you profit in that PA account, you can then request payouts.
Well, what are the reasons why prop trading is gaining popularity? Not just South Korea, but Asia for that matter.
Well, I think in general, you're seeing a push into prop worldwide simply because it's lowered the barriers of entry for the everyday person. Previously, as I stated, you would need to put $5,000. If you're going to trade NASDAQ, for example, NQ, you're going to need probably $1,000 per contract. And currently with the administration in the U.S. right now, where there's a lot of volatility in the markets, and so those margin requirements are frequently increased. This means that if you were going to trade one contract, it might be $2,000 or $2,500 per contract of capital that you have to trade one contract. If you're going to go with the Apex Trader Funding, you can get a $50K account for, let's say, $30, and you can leverage up to 10 contracts. So to do 10 contracts with increased margin in a live brokerage account, you may have to have as much as $20,000 or $30,000. So the barriers of entry have been completely removed when you look at it from that perspective. And so in a lot of countries, specifically across Asia, putting $5,000 in a live brokerage account is really out of the question. That's really difficult to do. But to enter the markets with $20 or $30 is certainly attainable.
So obviously from a macro scale, prop trading is still unfamiliar market in South Korea. What challenges have you guys faced introducing prop trading in South Korean market?
I think the challenges we face in any new emerging market or any new country that we're working in is getting the word out in the communities, finding people such as yourself at Grinding Life to go out and reach out to your community and educate the community how to trade prop, educate the community on what the rules are. And we see some countries there's a bigger language barrier, and so we reach out to influencers in those regions to help us translate even things like our website, translate the rules, ensure those communities understand the rules. And that's very important as we work together with Grinding Life and other people in Korea, that those rules are translated so the community understands them. So that's probably the biggest thing. And it's, we run into a lot of issues across Asia where there's a lot of fake brokerage firms, and there's some of that. So
Right.
Us being over here instills confidence in the community, and I think that's the big thing. We're real people, real company, real payouts.
As an influencer promoting prop trading, I get a lot of these comments. Oh, you guys are just another fake brokerage market. How should I persuade them?
We have payouts in region, and so I think it's also important for us for those traders that have had payouts, to encourage them to get into communities and talk about their successes. Right, so certainly, it's a journey for anybody, and there's trials and tribulations along the way in trading, as we all know. But at the same time, it's we've had real payouts in Korea to a lot of traders. The community's growing very, very quickly.
To showcase that these prop trading firms are real and nothing like the pervasive illegal brokerage practices, in my YouTube channel, I am currently running a series called Payout Police, where to give them more trust, I visit my community members who have been paid out by any prop firms. I visit their house, I show in camera their Korean bank account that the money is real. It came into their Korean bank account. I've met a lot of different people with a lot of different jobs. Male nurse, male secretary, students. When I see those people, I get touched because I am positively influencing trading market, giving them opportunity to trade with lower risk. Is that what motivates you as well, running all over the world, promoting prop trading with Apex?
The most exciting thing we do in this department is being able to change people's lives. And it's exactly what you just said. This trading futures, it's attainable to anyone. And that's a really, really big thing. It can be the student going to school, it can be the single mom at home, and we have so many stories about that. Even in the US, we've had people that were basically homeless that went to Starbucks, had a computer, and traded, and pulled themselves out of that situation, ultimately bought a home. These are real life-changing stories.
Do you guys have videos about their stories?
We are compiling. So in the countries we're traveling in, we're getting a lot of video testimonials, and we do want to start putting that together into like a video montage of successes across Asia. So we are getting those now, and that's certainly something that would be fun to do, is put that all together, because it's really incredible to hear some of their stories.
So Apex Korea regional office has been in Korea since December?
Yes.
Yeah. What do you aim to achieve in the first year in Korea?
Well, so the reason why we put in regional business development leads is we have to have eyes and ears on the ground. We want to understand the competitive landscape. We want to understand what the challenges are. We want to understand where the barriers of entry are, if there are any that we need to address. We want to understand, does our product fit the lifestyle? Does the cost work? Are there questions? We want to have events to attract both the traders and influencers such as yourself, because the only way we can reach out to these communities is through people like Grinding Life, And so having the events accomplishes multiple things for us. It instills confidence in the region, but it also, as we bring in the influencers, it allows them to grow their communities. So long term, it's all based on growth. We just want to grow the community, get the word out there that Apex is here, let them know that it's attainable, let them know that people are getting payouts, and continue to grow.
Why is the Apex only prop firm that's putting this much effort in other countries? Why not TopStep? Why not Tradify?
We are the biggest prop firm in the world. We're paying out more. We pay out more in a matter of months than other prop firms have paid out in their entire time in business. So our focus is growth in these regions of the world. It's very, very important to us. Our growth is important in the U.S., in North America. It's important. And I think it's an opportunity that we are capitalizing on in a big way right now, and we're going to continue to do so. And with the momentum we've developed in North America, I think we can just bring that across into Asia and continue that.
This might be a little sensitive with the prop trading market, but I had to ask. Recently, there was an incident with FTT, and they failed to pay out winning traders, and they went bankrupt. And people coming into this market, the new traders, they're Googling and they're hearing about these scandals. So what assurances can Apex provide to the new beginning traders to avoid similar risks?
Well, look how long we've been established. We've been established since 2021. The other firm you mentioned was a relatively new firm, came out with a pretty aggressive product, and it was relatively easy to look at the product and what they were doing from the start and know that was probably didn't have long-term success probabilities. We've been around since 2021. Look at the payouts. Look at the success. We publish payouts, right? We have a huge community that you can go out and look to see what those payouts were. And so the proof is in the payouts. Moreover, we're constantly working in the U.S. from a regulatory perspective. We're ensuring that we have a product and that we have a roadmap.
Could you share some of the potential red flags when choosing a prop firm?
I think, when you start to see very low cost, direct to funded accounts. That's from a risk perspective, that's probably a challenge especially for new firms. New traders love to go direct to funded. That's probably not the best model from a trader perspective, and it's probably not the best model from a new prop firm perspective. New traders need to start with an eval. They need to walk before they run. They need to build up, ensure that their strategy works, and ensure that it'll work in a funded account. So a lot of prop firms are coming out there, and the easy access to the space is to start a direct-to-funded, low-cost model, and that's not worked. That's just simply not worked in multiple cases. The infrastructure's not there, the backing's not there. They're brand new, and everybody wants to run to that new shiny toy. Well, the new shiny toy isn't always the best thing to do.
That's exactly what I wanted to hear. I'm always telling my audience, there's no free lunch. You guys
Right.
have to work.
Right.
Right. Walk before run.
Yes.
People are misunderstanding coming into prop firm all about payouts. It's not about payouts. It's about growth.
Yeah, you need to develop a trading strategy, not a payout strategy. We always say focus on trading, focus on a strategy, focus on day by day by day. If you start to look at a payout strategy, especially with an 8-day payout window that we have, it's very quickly to put too much pressure on yourself and ultimately blow the account before you get to the 8 days. So just focus on long term. If you have a 30-day trading plan, you're probably going to increase your chances of success.
So another red flags that I see is owner's risk. So FTT, Scott, the way he writes in Twitter or Discord and free resets, how could people not see this coming, right?
Right. Well, I'm not going to dive into that. I will say this, that whatever was said on Twitter, whatever he said on Twitter, I think speaks very well for itself. I don't think there's any other explanation has to be had. And that's not who we are. Daryl Martin founded us in 2021, and Daryl founded us on the belief that he wanted to build the biggest prop firm and pay out more to traders than any other firm in the world. And every day, our products, our rules, everything we put in place is with that mission statement in mind. We want to ensure long-term success, and we want to ensure that traders are getting paid. And so our entire business is built around paying more out to traders than any other prop firm in the world, and we're consistently doing that.
Different question now. So Apex has many regional offices in Asia and Southeast Asia. Have you seen domestic prop firms emerging into their market because of your Apex's presence?
We're aware of some prop firms, some regional firms popping up in some countries that we're operating in. So far, that hasn't been a big issue from the standpoint, again, a lot of countries across Asia, they don't trust those firms just because of what's happened previously with a lot of the fake brokerages and stuff you mentioned. So the confidence is still with Apex. The confidence is building as we're showing up in the region. So, and having regional leads across Asia is certainly helping to grow that.
So when those domestic prop firms emerge, do you guys try to help them and provide with some tips? Because if they scam people or they go into some scandals, it will definitely hurt you guys too, the whole market.
We don't engage with them per se, but we certainly like to understand what that business model is. Unfortunately, we talked about the barriers of entry for trading.
Right.
The barriers of entry of starting a prop firm anymore are unfortunately quite low as well. And that's unfortunate for the industry because if a prop firm starts up and they don't have the capital to back them to pay out, it's a recipe for disaster. So those are things we obviously don't have control over. And as we've seen in the U.S. with the other firms you mentioned, bad things happen when firms are started with low capital and a risk model that doesn't have a sustainable presence.
So when we have these seminars like yesterday, people come up to me and they ask me, how much do you make? How, as an influencer, I'm like, that's none of your business. Not enough, apparently. Not yet. And they ask me, how much does prop firm make? And well, it's publicly out there, Apex recent net profit. Yeah, so you can Google it. And they Google it. And, oh, the Apex? Now I want to make BPEX. And the other guy went, I want to make CPEX. So what advice would you give them?
Don't.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
It's not as easy as it looks. I mean,
know,
to
right?
build something great
Yeah.
like this, it takes the vision of our founder, Daryl Martin.
Yeah.
This Apex wasn't founded overnight.
Yeah.
This company has grown over multiple years, and prior to that, Daryl ran Apex Investing, where he taught traders. And so understand, Daryl's background, he didn't get here overnight. This has been a journey for him. So it may look easy on the surface, but there's a really big team behind this. Apex has grown quite large over the last couple years. And so it takes a team to do this. It's very, very difficult. It's not that you can just have a capital and a prop in the box and open up shop. It's probably not going to work.
Given the nature of this business, which often leads to many disputes, how does Apex respond to these challenges that set you guys apart from other prop firms?
From a dispute perspective, we have active departments that try to manage that and look at ongoing issues, whether if it's ongoing fraud or scammers and things of that nature. And we just try to capitalize on it early and get it shut down to minimize whatever fallout there may be. So that's something that we're constantly addressing. And it's important to keep addressing that. And as you mentioned earlier, some of the firms that only do bank wires, that's an obvious way to avoid having to deal with that, right? So we actively manage that, and that's a department that we have constantly looking into those.
And back to those stories that inspire you. What's your favorite story of a payout story?
I don't think I have a favorite story because they're all so interesting, but I think my favorite stories in general are, especially in countries where this is such an unbelievable opportunity. You take, for example, as I mentioned, the single mom in Philippines. We have a Colombia trader that's getting a really big payout, and it changed their life. It sets their kids through college. They bought a home. They bought a car, right? They paid off maybe their parents' debt. Those are really unbelievable things. We had an event in Philippines, and we actually met with her after the event and did just a short story with her.
Interesting.
And she actually spoke at our event.
Do you share this prop trading idea with your family too? Because recently I talked to my cousins and my uncle about prop trading. Don't trade with your money. You're going to lose a lot. And they heard about this prop trading and they came into this market and they are loving it. They're obviously not heavy traders. They have 9 to 6 job, 9 to 5 job. They come home. They trade for 30 minutes to 1 hour. Did you do that with your family or your sons?
Yeah, so I have one of my sons is studying finance at K-State, and he actually trades Apex.
Is he funded? PA?
He has been a couple times.
A couple times.
So, unfortunately, I see some of the same habits that I fought were difficult for me to break. I see those same habits in him, and so I'm trying to coach him as best as I can. And I still don't have the ultimate psychology, rules that I feel like that he needs to follow, because we all struggle with that, right? We all struggle with all the FOMO and the over leveraging and things of that nature. And just to give you an example, he called me the other day. I was actually here in Asia, and he called me and he says, "Man, Dad, you got to help me out. I just busted another 300K account, another PA account."
Why is he already trading 300K account?
We had a promotion on the bigger ones, and he felt like he could probably use the additional drawdown. So anyways, he busted his 300K account. And I told him, I said, "Well, I need to look at your trade history." So he showed me his trade history, and he entered with one contract, and it was a win. I think he did a couple contracts, just single contract trades, and they were all wins. And then he did a single contract trade, and it was a loss. And then he did another trade, and it was a loss. So what he did is exactly what I did, and what we see a lot of people do. They go to 3 contracts, and he lost, and then 5 contracts, and he lost. And then he's down a pretty significant amount of money. So what do? You go 15 contracts.
DCA.
Yeah. And so, I try to work to ensure that you have to understand you got to grow it small. $100 a day for the first 3 or 4 weeks is not a bad thing. It gets you away from the trailing drawdown, gets that drawdown locked. And then every day after that, you're moving away from the drawdown. And that's important.
One of the best tips I got from you was the 3-3 rule. Could you please explain to the audience 3-3 rule?
So I want to preface this by saying that is not my rule. That was actually a Daryl Martin rule. Oh. And so Daryl Martin taught that. And I always, actually when he first taught it, I kind of struggled with really understanding how it worked. And he actually uses a 6-3 rule, same principle. I just revised it to a 3-3 because it seemed to work a little bit better for me and get me to stop a little bit sooner. So essentially what that rule is it looks at the net win-loss ratio you have on the day. So if you enter one trade and you have a win, you're essentially up one net win. If you enter another trade and you win, you're now up 2 net wins. So if you enter the third trade and you lose, now you're up 1 net win. So you had 2 wins, then you lost, so now you're up 1 net win. You're always looking at the net result of wins and losses.
So technically, you can trade forever.
Technically, if you did win, lose all day long, you might end the day with a small commission loss, or close to break even as long as you're not moving your stops. Now understand, this would also assume that you may have close to a 1-to-1 risk-reward ratio. So if you have a 50-tick stop, you might have a 50-tick profit. So if you did that and you never moved your stops, you would end the day, you could trade all day, win, lose, and end with a small commission loss. However, the thing to remember is anytime you hit 3 net losses or 3 net wins, you stop. That means if you have 3 trades in a row that hit a 50-tick profit target, you stop. That on NQ, if you're trading one contract, that's $750, and you hit that 3 times in a row. Controversially, if you hit your stop 3 times in a row, that's $750. Even on a 50K account, a $750 loss is recoverable. One of my rules is I never want to lose more than a day than I can comfortably recover the next day. Because if you allow yourself to lose more in one day than you can recover the next, you're setting yourself up for a multi-day comeback. That gets discouraging, very discouraging. But the 3-3 rule, when Daryl first enlightened me on that and I started studying that, was one of the biggest game changers for trading for me.
3-3 rule.
That was significant for me. And it's something I still do today. And when you go back and even look at the example I give you of my son, if he had followed that rule, he had 3 winning trades. He would have been done on the day, I think, with about $600 or $700 profit in that account. And if he had stopped and followed that rule, he would have ended up $700. Instead, he ended by blowing the account. Because the nice thing is with that rule, too, is the big question we get is, how much should I trade? How little should I trade? When should I stop? So some people say, well, I only do 3 trades on the day. If I, 3 trades and I'm done. That really doesn't satisfy our appetite for trading. That's difficult to do. So the net win, if you look at it from a net perspective, it really allows you to trade more. And as soon as you hit that 3 net losses or 3 net wins, you're done. You're done.
So when I told you about my uncle and my cousins, so how should I start? I don't know. Don't ask me. But 3-3 rule?
It is. And I like the fact that rule actually covers multiple things, multiple
discipline. It teaches
does.
discipline.
Yeah. That's the thing is because you can break out this discipline along multiple rules, and it's more difficult to follow. But if you just look at it from a 3-3 perspective and just walk away. In general, the principle is look at the net win-loss result on the day, which focuses on your consistency.
Yeah, and you were mentioning about Mr. Daryl Martin. You were a user, right? Like us,
Right.
For Apex. Why did he contact you? Why is he not contacting me or anybody else? Why did he contact you and teach you personally?
Well, I think I joined Apex. So I first started trading Apex, and they were about 6 months old as a company.
When was this?
So late 2021. So I think it was September of 2021. And so Apex was obviously a lot smaller then. And here I come with this attitude that I'm going to make a lot of money in very, very short amount of time, right? And so I think internally at Apex, I bubbled to the surface just because of the credit card rate that I was running my credit cards through the system. And thank God Daryl called me, right? Because I was on a path of total destruction, where I was headed. And fortunately for me, I had other businesses, and so I did have some income that could support my crazy decisions, right? But at some point, you've got to get control of yourself. And it wasn't that I didn't know what Daryl, what he told me on that phone call wasn't new or novel, right? We all know it. In our heart of hearts, when you're sitting there in front of the computer and you're getting ready to punch the mouse, you know whether or not you should be entering that trade. Like your heart is saying no and your brain's saying no and the endorphins are jumping up and down and you just go in full tilt. You know that's not right. But when someone reaches out to you, and I had never talked to Daryl, but when someone reaches out to you and says, hey, just stop doing this. Stop look at your trades in the morning. You did okay, so don't give it back every day. Just stop. And it was at that time he started telling me about some of this stuff. Go to Apex Investing and start reading some of this. And I've got a lot of content there. I think it'll help you from a psychology perspective. So
you're saying to get personal coaching by Mr. Daryl Martin, we need to
I'm not
run 20
suggesting-
evals, 20 PAs for a year.
I'm not suggesting that. I think the great thing is the communities have been built out since then. So there's a lot. Even back then, there wasn't a lot of influencers. There wasn't a lot of people trading online. There were a few, but nothing like there is today. Today, there's plenty of resources. Even some of the influencers that are teaching strategies and things of that nature, they're conservative in their approach. You may not take trades all the time every day, but if you listen, the majority of them have your best interest in mind. They're trying to ensure that you have some path to success. There's plenty of communities out there, and that's the thing we always encourage: is find a community, join it. Build a community, especially in these countries across Asia. If there's not communities built out, start them. Start groups, start Telegram, start WhatsApp, Facebook, whatever it is, because communities provide accountability. And that was one of the big things too, is find an accountability partner, someone that you can reach out to. Doesn't even have to understand trading. Just reach out to them and say, hey, just tell me to stop. And there's many, many days you have to do that.
When you mentioned about dopamine, I recently learned casino betting, blackjack or baccarat. It's not when you make profit when the dopamine kicks in. It's when you bet. When you put the chips in, the dopamine is at the peak level.
It's at the moment of commitment.
Right,
Yeah.
right. VPIP is number of hands you play in poker. That's the percentage. So in poker too, it's a zero-sum game, right? You have to have lower VPIP. You have to fold many hands before the flop. But people want to play hands, so they go in with this trash hands. Same as trading. You have to enter less.
Right. There's so many strategies out there, and I think literally every strategy out there has some merit. There's something about every strategy that you could probably follow and probably have some small level of success, whatever it is. I always tell people, find something that you're extremely interested in. There's some strategies out there. I watch people, I observe people doing it, and they're making pretty decent money. I don't completely understand it. I'm not that interested for whatever reason. Whenever I study it, it's not clear to me, so I don't implement that stuff. You need to be really, really curious about your strategy, fully understand it, be able to teach it. That's super, super important, whatever that strategy is. But the best strategy in the world, and this come from Daryl, he's got fantastic strategies at Apex Investing. The best strategy in the world, if you do not have the rules of engagement to back that up, is likely going to fail, because you can take a really good strategy and just keep pushing it every single day, and you're probably going to bust.
Yeah, so what I'm noticing in Korea market, people are hungry for strategies, and they're just hungry to learn. But unlike America, a lot of healthy communities are out there. The ecosystem is very healthy. But Korea, with these illegal brokerages, communities or ecosystem where these young traders, the beginner traders, can learn from. And I think Apex will have positive impact on them by letting them coming into this community and learn.
There's plenty of strategies out there to learn from the influencer community. Grinding Life has strategies and there's plenty of information on YouTube. There's companies like Trade Devils who have a lot of indicators that are tied to a specific strategy that are proven. Are they proven across all instruments? Maybe not, but across certain markets they work extremely well. So, that's the thing, is you have to become very, very curious about this. You have to study a lot about it. You have to read a lot of Investopedia. Read about Market Profile by Jim Dalton. Read Mark Douglas books. Read every book you can get your hands on. Understand what makes the markets work, why they don't work. Study the instrument you're trading. If you're trading gold, what moves gold? If you're trading currency, what's causing that currency fluctuation? And you really have to understand what drives that. And that's super, super important. Just because you see volatility in an instrument doesn't mean you should jump in.
There are still some of guys in Korea who got banned from Apex a couple months ago. It's back when You guys were Apex 2.0. They met the requirement to get paid out. Eventually, they got banned, and they're still coming at us or coming at you guys too, right? Could you dive deeper into those people?
Without knowing individual cases, it's difficult to know why someone was banned. But I can give you like a 30,000-foot view on that. And I think maybe to help explain that, let me give you an example of something that I personally was involved with. So we had a trader in a country here in Asia that had been denied a payout. They were in their community talking about the denied payout, and in that community chat had noted multiple times that this payout was denied unfairly. And normally I don't get involved in that. We have a great support staff at Apex Trader Funding, and those types of questions need to go back through support. However, in this case, I had seen it bubble to the surface enough, I decided to reach out directly to this trader and engage him to understand what the issue was. So I did. I reached out to him and said, I just want to understand in greater detail the denied payout, what your story was. So initially, the first few texts that I received from them was, you guys denied my payout unfairly. I followed the rules. I've never broke a rule. This is not right. This is unfair. So I said, let's just start going back through your trading history. There were 2 days that he had broke the 30% loss rule. So he had lost more than 30% of his P&L on one trade. There were 2 days he had done that. He had recovered the account, but he had certainly lost, he had broke that rule. And so when I identified that and directly asked him, he immediately said, yeah, I remember that. But that was not the story that he was saying. So I think in the heat of the moment, we all have human tendencies to kind of go on defensive and protect our actions. And I think that was the case there. I can tell you this, that in almost all cases where payouts were denied, there are clear rule violations. There are cases where it might be a bit of a gray area. Maybe maybe it's a calculation on their part versus the way we calculate. They don't think they quite broke the 30% rule. So in general, it's just a calculation clarification. We need to show them, okay, here's how it was calculated. Trade another 8 days. You still have the account. Things are fine. A denied payout just means another 8 days. 8 days, if you have a great strategy, means more profit. More profit means potentially a bigger payout. We have some traders in Asia that are over 200 days of trading on a PA account. That's pretty consistent. We want to be looking at that. So in other cases, it's because they're continually, they have a payout strategy, not a trading strategy. Now, 3.0 helped that. And by that I mean we changed the rules to put a safety threshold in. Why did we put the safety threshold in? It was because traders were building up their accounts, taking max payout, leaving themselves $500 as a drawdown, and then blowing the account on the first trade. They would then cycle, get a eval, pass it, go build it back up to the first payout, max payout, blow the account. We can't have that in a live environment. So there were traders that were banned from buying new accounts, were blocked from buying new accounts just because of that. Lots and lots of evals, lots and lots of PA accounts, and a one payout strategy. We're not looking for one payouts. We're looking for multiple payouts. We want to pay traders multiple times over a long period of time. And so those traders, we essentially block them from buying new accounts until we can review and understand what that is and hopefully, build a framework that they can operate within. But, neither case, in all cases of both denied payouts and blocked traders, there's always a reason why. And, if they need clarification, they can reach out to our support department and we can check into it further. But what's interesting is, if you really get in front of a trader and ask them the tough question, say, what rule did you break? I've never talked to a trader that could not identify the rule they broke. They in their heart of hearts say no. But again, it's just human nature to become defensive and protect that. I would probably do the same, right? But we all know. You know when you're entering a trade, when you're about ready to, back when we had DCA, when your finger's hovering on top of that left click, you're sitting there going, I know I shouldn't do this, but you do, and you break a rule, and then what do? You just pray that nobody sees. Well, it was a broken rule. We're looking for traders that we can take to live, that can self-govern, that treat this like a business, that grow accounts, that trade consistent, that are with us for long term, that we can trust real capital with. We're not looking for traders that we have to babysit. Traders that we have to every day hold their hand and explain the rules, explain why. Here's an example. We have traders that come to us and say, your $2,500 drawdown on a 50K is so small. That's very difficult. But yet they will take the 50K account under Apex 2.0. They would take the 50K account, get it to the first payout, take max payout, leave themselves $500 and argue that they could work with $500 when they had previously told us that $2,500 wasn't enough, right? So it's really a matter of, again, in the moment, they want the payout, but think long term. Don't think 8 days. Think long term. Build the account over a month. Take smaller payouts. Keep that capital in there. Think long term. Those are traders that we really want.
Thank you for clarifying. Then I'm going to ask now questions from Grinding Life community members.
How many people do you have in your community now?
Right now, it's over 600
Okay.
now. I believe benchmarking strategies from other traders, other winning traders, is a good thing, but copying their strategies entirely, I don't think it's right. As a trader, figuring out your own strategy, what advice would you give to them?
I think you should go out there, there's a lot of learning has to take place before you trade the markets. There's a lot of learning needs to take place before you trade an eval, to be honest. You need to go out there and research. There's a lot of strategies. Go out there again and research it. My first strategy that I poured heart and soul into was Fibonacci. There was a gentleman that taught me Fibonacci, and he trades almost exclusively on Fibonacci, and it's still something I use a lot today. It was difficult at first for me to understand exactly, if you're fibbing high to low and low to low sequences and extensions and everything else and how it works and where you should draw the Fibonacci sequences from. I wasn't really interested in it that much, but at the same time, I'm going, this appears in nature. This is Fibonacci is quite a thing. And once I spent the time, effort, and energy, it's something I use every day. Support and resistance are simple. Trend lines are simple. Initial balance, those are simple. But again, you have to go back and you have to read about the strategies and study the strategies. And if you're not crystal clear on what they are and you can identify that every day, on a continual basis, then you probably need to go back and reanalyze what you're looking at. There's some things simply don't resonate. Some people are order flow people. Some people love bookmap. Some people love market profile. Those are all things people use. Some people use fair value gaps. It's just you need to become very, very interested and understand whatever strategy you have.
So when do you come up with a strategy? How do you declare that this is a winning strategy? How many days should you test?
Well, unfortunately for me, I didn't do a lot of back testing before, and I paid bitterly as a result of that. I should have done more back testing. I should have traded more in sim. So I don't think it hurts to go back and do a lot of back testing. In fact, now that I've done some more back testing on some things, I've even learned how to tweak my current strategies a little bit better. So it doesn't hurt to go back and do that. But the other thing is it's quite simple. On some simple strategies, you take the initial balance play or you take the value area play, you can pull up a chart and visually see if it worked or not, especially on initial balance. You can go back and look at the initial balance on every trading day and just quickly see, did it work on that day, even if you don't have a stat that's telling you whether or not it did. So certainly backtest if your strategy needs that, but there's also a lot of strategies that are quite visual on a chart. You can go back and look and see how well they worked.
Yeah, that's why prop trading they come in handy. If you're very busy with your main job and you don't have time to backtest and you just want to learn it from experience, prop trading. If you do that with your live accounts, that's too much risk.
Right, and you brought up a good point. So if you have a job, you also need to kind of look for a strategy that works well with your job. There's some strategies that force you to sit in front of the charts all day long, but there's also strategies out there that you can identify confluence well before price gets there. Fibonacci, you can draw out sequences long before price action gets there. You take measured moves, which are Fibonacci sequences. That's on a chart well before price gets there. You look at the initial balance play. Well, that's going to be established every day at 10:30 Eastern. So that's a play that you can focus on in that time frame. The value area. you know what the previous day's value was. So there's a lot of strategies that you can implement that don't force you to be in front of the charts all day long looking for a trade.
Right.
You know kind of roughly what time that trade's going to set up. Allows you to do your job and still focus a bit on trading.
And next question, let's see. So you mentioned at the talk yesterday at the seminar, you now trade live accounts. How many contracts or the average profit loss for each trade is?
I really haven't changed my strategy. So I still prefer to enter with I only trade in queue. Mm-hmm. So I prefer to enter with 1 to 3 contracts. And then it was interesting because, at Apex, we see a lot of people that really, really want a DCA. That seems like a really popular strategy or popular thinking to double down on losing trades. And just seeing all of that and knowing that we don't have a lot of traders that scale into winners, which that always kind of intrigued me. And so my strategy has changed in that I probably try to scale into winners more. So I still enter with 1 to 3 contracts, depending on the confluence that I enter on. Once I can get my stop in profit, if it moves in my favor, then I will actually add in additional contracts, but I keep my stop in profit. So today, I think the only way that my strategy has changed is that I'm trying to look for more runners instead of scalps, simply because I don't have a drawdown. As long as I have my stop in profit, I'm willing to let it kind of work itself out. And what's interesting about that's also taught me that the trailing drawdown at Apex is a good thing. It was a good thing when I did it, and it's a good thing now, because what's interesting, here's an example. Here about 2 weeks ago, I think it was actually in Philippines, and I entered a trade, and I entered with, I believe, 3 contracts, and I let it run overnight. And I pulled my stop into profit, and when I got up in the morning, if I had capitalized on that trade, it would have been well over a $10,000 trade, but it had come down and hit my stop. Classic example that if you have a trailing drawdown and it forces you to capitalize on the profits, put the money in the bank. And that's what we see a lot. People talk about end-of-day accounts. Well, end-of-day accounts, that's what happens. People do exactly what I did. Pull your stop in profit, let it work itself out. It comes down, hits your stop. You didn't lose any money, but you certainly didn't capitalize. I didn't capitalize on the $10,000 I could have made. So I still tend to like to trade. I still like to actively manage those trades.
Greediness is your enemy when trading.
Right.
Trailing MDD, it kills your enemy. It kills
Yes.
the greediness.
Yes.
Yeah, you have to constantly think about profit-loss ratio. Take your profit when necessary. He's asking about Bookmap. You showed Bookmap presentation yesterday. What does it show?
So in short, Bookmap shows liquidity on the markets. And the reason why that's interesting, it's actually showing, live orders that are setting on the markets. And so when the way that I use it, and I guess that's probably the easiest way to tell you what it is around 10 o'clock in the morning, I like to look at Bookmap, and I like to see where the liquidity is parked. So Bookmap will show it's color shaded. It has a color shaded histogram on the entire back of the chart that literally is showing you where the liquidity is at. So you can kind of zoom out. And if you see a really high level zone of the liquidity that's built out, or a low level of liquidity that's built out on the chart, and it stays there all day, in other words, it doesn't move. They're not moving that liquidity. That's probably some market makers sitting there that are trying to push the market in one direction or another. So I like to just identify that. At the same time, the reason why I like to do that is I like to see where it's at and then build out higher time frame confluence and see if I can build confluence that matches that liquidity level. Because what that does is if I can build higher time frame confluence that matches, it also substantiates my confluence. When I see that, okay, now I've built out some extensions or fib retracements, or there's a measured move, or there's a previous day's high or low, or a significant level off of a higher time frame chart, and it all matches up with that liquidity level, gives me a lot of confidence in that level. When will price get there? I don't know. But that's the major way that I use it. Now, the other interesting thing it shows is if through a subscription you can show icebergs. Icebergs are what Bookmap uses to identify market makers. Market makers are people like the big banks. And so when price is moving in a particular direction and reverses, there's a lot of times in Bookmap you can see market makers stepping in, and there's either sell or buy icebergs, meaning big banks, some big market makers stepping in and selling the market or buying the market, and price turns. So when that happens, and there's still liquidity on the opposite side. So if they come down low and there's a bunch of buy or iceberg step in and you see a lot of liquidity up high on Bookmap in the day, you can almost bet that at some point during the day, since there was a lot of icebergs going off low, they're going to run that price up. And liquidity is a magnet for price. They're going to run it up there and fill that liquidity in the day. I just like to see where liquidity's at, and I like to see who's buying it. And then it's interesting to see stops getting hit. When price starts to move quick, it's kind of interesting just to see the amount of people that are getting stopped out of the market and just identify where the liquidity's at.
So you talked about Magnificent Seven, right? Was it?
Right.
Yeah. Do you consider that to be more important or the Bookmap? If you had to choose one.
I'll take market internals over Bookmap.
Really?
For me, Bookmap is more interesting. It's just an additional piece of confluence that I use. So Bookmap, for me, is more interesting. Market internals are absolutely one of the most important things that you can possibly have on a chart, in my opinion. It's the gas in the tank. So, you start looking at what are the if you're trading NQ or ES, for example, what is the Magnificent Seven doing? Those are the 7 stocks that move the market. Start looking at the tick index. The tick index, shows you what the stocks are doing, if there's more decreasing or inclining or increasing based on the previous tick, the ADD based on the previous day's close, the dollar index, the VIX. Those are all things that a lot of people just don't pay a lot of attention to, and I think the reason why they don't is a lot of that data has to be bought through a additional data stream, so you have to pay additional to get that. I use NinjaTrader, and so I run IQ feed data into my NinjaTrader, and you can get all of that, the market internal data that way. So everything I'm doing is inside of NinjaTrader, including all the different stocks and everything else.
How do you get this information? IQ feed?
So
through
IQ
NinjaTrader?
feed is a data feed.
Data feed.
So similar to Rhythmic or Tradeovate, it's its own data feed, and you can go to IQ feed and get, if you want level 2 data, you can get the market internals data, you can get stock data. You just choose what you want to subscribe to.
Oh.
And so then that is a feed that I have running all the time, in addition to Trading NinjaTrader Live Brokerage, which has its own data. So, but IQ feed is the data feed that I have on my charts. But again, the market internals, it's just something that it's really fascinating to me, because you see traders that are trading NQ and ES and not really understanding what moves them, what drives them. It's the same reason why I don't trade a lot of oil or gold or any of the other instruments, because I haven't really dove into what makes those markets move or not move. I'm not as interested. I'm really interested. I think the reason why I really like NQ and ES, really NQ is all I trade anymore, but I love Tesla. I love the big tech companies like that. They're interesting to me. I follow them anyway. And so it's easy to kind of build that into my market internal analysis. So the market internal analysis every day, that's what determines my bias on the day for the markets.
All right, thank you, Vince, for the great tips. It's time to wrap up this interview. Let's go all the way back to 2009. There was Uber, 2017, Bitcoin, 2022, AI, ChatGPT, right? I believe 2024 is prop trading. Next big thing.
Yeah, you take Travis Kalanick and Uber, Satoshi Nakamoto and Bitcoin. You take Sam Altman and ChatGPT. I think prop is going to have an enormously impactful presence in trading going forward, because we've lowered the barriers of entry. And I always like to tell people, our tagline at Apex Trader Funding is infinite possibilities, and that really sums up everything we've said. There are infinite possibilities if you keep your emotions in check, build a long-term consistent trade plan, stick to your strategy, and have the discipline.
So I'm gonna continue working as liaison between Korean community and prop firms like Apex, NinjaTrader, and NinjaTrader vendors, because there's that language barrier.
Supporting you in whatever capacity we can.
Do you have any last comment to the Korean audience?
Check us out on apextraderfunding.com. We're running sales frequently. So for as little as $30, you can sign up for a 50K account and start trading today.